I thought this week we'd be talking a lot about the football commitments, but then Brad Underwood out of nowhere signs a 4-star.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank y'all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Sports Network the #1 sports network in the world. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where, of course, I provide you coverage daily. That's right, every single day, sometimes multiple times in a single day. If you'd like to support the program, the only thing I ask is to make sure you hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because over 50% of you are not. Okay, so today we're going to pivot a little bit. Now, if you watched Monday morning's episode, I kind of hinted towards this at the end of the episode that about maybe a half hour before I was going to record that episode, I got wind that, hey, Illinois is about to add another one. And that's exactly what happened. What I didn't know was that the actual announcement was going to come like an hour after I released the episode. And so I was like, you know what, there's no point in me doing a rapid reaction. I'll kind of settle. I'll talk to some folks who are familiar with Lincoln Williams, the new signing, and kind of get their thoughts and, you know, just kind of resonate a little bit and then kind of come here fresh and talk to you about the newest Illini signing. As I mentioned, okay, Illinois signs people are saying 4-star. I'm reading all over it 4-star. It's a 3-star. And I know I kicked off the show saying 4-star, so I feel a little guilty. But when it was announced that Lincoln Williams had signed with Illinois, I saw two very different reactions when it comes to the fan base. I saw one group immediately start looking at the rankings, and then I saw another group immediately start looking at the roster. And quite honestly, I think both groups are kind of missing the bigger picture here. Because when I look at this edition, I don't see somebody who's going to come in and average 15 points a game next season. I don't think I see somebody who's going to average 15 minutes a game next season. But you know why? It's because this rotation is loaded. And I don't think that that's what this signing is about. What I see is that Illinois is using the very end of its roster on a player with legitimate upside and a skill set that really does not exist anywhere else on this basketball team. And that is a choice I absolutely love. Let's start with the reality of the situation. As I mentioned, Illinois is loaded. And that's actually part of why I like this move. Think about who's already on the roster. You got the Andre Stojakovic, Stefan Vox, David Mirkovic, the Visic twins, Jake Davis, Quentin Coleman, Lucas Murillo. The list goes on. This is not a roster that needs immediate help. It's not a roster searching for somebody to help get them to the next level. This is a Final Four team that just brought back a huge portion of that nucleus from last year. So when Lincoln Williams arrives on campus, there's going to be zero pressure on him. There's going to be zero expectations on him. Because if we're being honest, Lincoln Williams came to Illinois to be the 14th man on the roster next season. And that's okay. Because I don't think that's the point. The point is the upside. Because when you watch Lincoln Williams play, the first thing that jumps out at you isn't polish. It's the athleticism, it's the length, the energy, it's explosion. He's one of those guys that always doesn't always look like everybody else on the floor. And I think that's important because think about it. So the guy I envision is like, we watch Houston every single year, right? And every single year, they just have grinders. They just have dogs, just athletes, just mean guys. And there always seems to be the type of prototype that Illinois wishes they had more of. You know, like long, athletic, relentless, can guard multiple positions, lives around the rim, can create chaos with his play. Yeah, he may not be the most offensive player, but again, that's not always the highest kind of recruit. But that's the kind of player every coach loves. And that's who Lincoln Williams reminds me of. And that's who I spoke to multiple coaches who coached against Lincoln Williams. And all of them described him as a dog. And one of them even said that he's got like the Ty Rodgers and Morez Johnson type of mindset where even though he may not play this season in an actual game, he's going to make everybody in practice earn it. And what I also really like about Lincoln himself is just how different he is from everyone else on this roster. I mean, he's not another version of Andre. He's not another version of Stefan Vox or David Mirkovic. He truly does bring something unique that, quite honestly, we have not seen in Champaign for a while. And that has the potential to be valuable. Because roster construction isn't just about collecting the same player over and over again. It's about creating options, giving yourself lineup flexibility, and creating developmental pathways. And I think Lincoln gives Illinois a completely different look than they're accustomed to. We can talk about the production because Lincoln absolutely has that. He's got numbers that are ridiculous. Over 1,800 career points, which is a school record. Over 700 points as a senior, multiple all-state honors. Those aren't numbers you put up accidentally. Now, okay, granted, high school isn't Big Ten. Nobody's saying any of those statistics are going to automatically translate. But I do think it's worth acknowledging that he's a player who knows how to compete. He finished in the top 3 in Mr. Basketball for Illinois. And if you're taking a look on your screen, 24/7 has him as the number 1 player in Illinois on YouTube. If you're watching this, I've got the screen pulled up. He's a kid who knows how to be the focal point of a scouting report. And I think that in itself is a valuable trait. And despite all of those points, I don't think, again, it's the scoring that fascinates me. It's the defensive upside. Because when Brad Underwood continually talks about wanting versatility, he wants length. He wants players who can switch. He wants players who can defend multiple positions. I think Lincoln checks all of those boxes. He's 6'5", 180 pounds with long arms and really good athleticism. That's a lot to work with. He's the kind of prospect where you can envision what he might look like 2 years from now after spending some time with Adam Fletcher in that strength and conditioning room. That has me excited, and that's what has me so intrigued. And then, of course, we kind of can't ignore the local aspect of all this either, can we? And again, some fans don't care, and some fans roll their eyes when people talk about keeping kids home. I don't, especially in this case. Because Lincoln Williams isn't just another in-state player. He's one of the most productive players in Illinois high school basketball. It's someone who has a reputation. He's built a following. He's built a legacy in Kankakee. And it would have been somewhat disappointing about watching him lead the state of Illinois while Illinois had room on the roster. And I'll be honest, I didn't think Illinois was still in the running for Lincoln. As I mentioned at the top of the show, it was only a half hour before that I found out Lincoln was committing on Monday morning. And now Illinois gets to see what Lincoln can become in the orange and blue. And if he hits, well, I just think that the payoff here could be significant. And this is why I think it's a smart move. The risk is minuscule, but the upside is real. These are the kind of bets that good programs should make. Because let's be honest, if Lincoln Williams becomes exactly what many people expect in 2-3 years, you're talking about a very solid depth piece. And that's fine. You want a guy who can help you scout against the type of, like the Michigan States, the Houstons, the guys who throw athletic, lengthy guys at you. He can help you with that in practice. But what if Lincoln Williams develops further than that? What if his jumper improves, if his ball handling improves, if his body fills out after working with Fletch? Well, now you're having a completely different conversation. Now you're talking about a player who could become a real valuable piece to this basketball team. And those are the type of stories that happen all the time in college basketball. So my takeaway isn't, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to your face that Illinois today landed a future superstar. I don't know that. My takeaway is actually a lot simpler. I think that Brad Underwood used a roster spot on a very high upside athlete with a very unique skill set. He's got strong production and he's got high developmental potential. I just think in Brad's case, this is very good roster management. It's a really good talent acquisition. And honestly, these are the type of players that are worth taking chances on. Maybe Lincoln Williams never becomes a star. Maybe he simply just becomes a rotational player. But if you're asking me whether I'd rather use the end of my roster on a player with real athletic upside and long-term potential, the answer is yes, every single time. What's the point of having the same type of archetype of player over and over again on your roster? If you've got 15 roster spots, throw something else in there every now and then. And I think Lincoln Williams, as I mentioned, year one, I think it's more of a depth piece, a guy at the end of your rotation, a guy who probably won't play more than a dozen minutes all season long. But his body type, his athletic profile, he's going to help you maybe be like on the scout team, right? Help the starters learn what it's like to go up against a defender like that. But in year two and year three, now granted, there's no promise he's going to be here in Champaign in year two or year three, but that doesn't say anything about Lincoln Williams, nor does that say anything about Illini basketball. What that talks about is just the modern day collegiate environment, right? Everybody is on a year-to-year basis at this point. But again, I do really like the potential upside to it. Unfortunately, if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal. But if it does work out, I think Illinois landed the type of player they haven't had in a really long time. And congrats to Brett to doing this on a random Monday in early June. Patio season is here, and there's nothing better than having an outdoor space that feels comfortable, functional, and gets used. Whether it's a backyard, patio, balcony, or deck, the right setup can completely change how you spend your time at home. And that's where Wayfair comes in. From outdoor seating and patio lighting to grills, rugs, decor, and storage, Wayfair is a one-stop shop for creating an outdoor space that fits your style and your budget. Plus, with over 20 million five-star reviews and Wayfair verified products, it's easy to shop with confidence. Just think about it. If you're outside now, if you're in the Chicagoland, it's not, you have to take advantage of the warmth when you can. Get a nice patio set out there. It instantly changes the space from looking unfinished to a place where you can relax outdoor with your buddies, with your family. That's something I would look into. Just remember, patio season is here, and these deals won't last. Head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And welcome back. If you asked Illini fans a year ago what they would want from a big recruiting weekend on the football side, the answer would probably be pretty simple. Get some commitments, build some momentum, maybe land a surprise. Well, this weekend, the Illini managed to do all three. And one of the biggest developments wasn't a player Illinois had been leading on for months. It was a player who already had committed somewhere else. And that's Gavin Erickson Staton, showing up in Champaign as an Iowa State commit, and yet left as an Illinois commit. And that's a very different story, because when I look at this commitment, I don't think the most interesting part is Gavin himself, but we will talk about him in a minute. Again, I think the interesting part is what's happened during the recruiting weekend, and again, where Illinois football is going. This is not by accident. It's not a random late decision. Illinois got a highly regarded in-state offensive lineman on campus and changed the trajectory of his recruitment. And more, that's becoming a trend. Now, I get it. This recruiting cycle has gone slower than in years past, but I think we're at 4 commitments. 2 I've already talked about from this particular weekend. I think it's starting to gain momentum. Think about this from Iowa State's perspective, right? They already had the commitment. The hard part was supposed to be over. The relationship had been built. The recruiting pitch, it worked. The player had publicly committed. Most of the time when that happens, you're simply trying to hold on until signing day. And then Illinois gets 1 weekend with them. 1 visit, 1 opportunity, and suddenly everything changed. And that's a credit to the atmosphere. It's a credit to the staff. And it's a credit to the momentum that Illinois is continuing to build as a program, because recruits are seeing something happening in Champaign. There's no need for Gavin to take this visit if he's strongly committed to Iowa State. But obviously, he thought that the pitch that Brett would have for him was worth listening to. And apparently, it was. What's especially interesting is Gavin wasn't the only win of the weekend. As I mentioned on yesterday's episode, they got Cade Newman. There's 2 more commits that have happened as well. So now we're talking about multiple commitments coming off the same recruiting event. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how momentum works. 1 commitment helps another. 1 successful visit helps another. Recruits talk, families talk, high school coaches talk, and suddenly a weekend becomes bigger than any individual player. And that's a statement about the program. Now let's talk a little bit about Gavin, because he's the exact type of prospect that offensive line coaches love developing. The first thing that's going to jump out at you is his versatility. This isn't a kid who has spent his entire life playing one position. He played center, he played guard, he played tackle. He's even lined up as a jumbo tight end. Very unusual, yet very valuable. Because eventually when he arrives in Champaign, Illinois doesn't have to force him into one role immediately. They can let his body develop. They can see where he grows. They can cross-train him, and they can ultimately put him where he's most effective. That is a luxury. The second thing is his athletic background. Everyone immediately notices the wrestling. And yes, being an all-state wrestler at 285, pretty impressive. But for me, it's what wrestling represents. The balance, leverage, body control, hand fighting, mental toughness. Every offensive line coach in the country loves a recruit who wrestles, because many of those skills translate directly to the trenches. It's one thing to be big, and yet it's a completely other thing to understand how to use your body. Wrestlers usually figure that out much earlier than anybody else. And then you add in the fact that he's coming from Montini. That's significant. We're talking about one of the better football programs in Illinois, state championships, playoff football, winning expectations, big games. Those experiences all matter, because college coaches aren't just evaluating talent. They're evaluating habits. They're evaluating whether a player understands what it takes to win. And Gavin has been immersed in that environment. What's funny is when fans hear offensive line commitment, the immediate reaction is often, where's he going to play? Tackle, guard, center. The reality with Gavin is we probably don't know yet. And honestly, Illinois probably doesn't know either. But that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a part of what makes him so intriguing. At, 6'5", 270 pounds, he still has plenty of physical development ahead of him. The version of Gavin Erickson Stanton that arrives on campus won't be the same version Illinois is evaluating 3 years from now. And that's why offensive line recruitment is so tricky. You're recruiting future projections, not finished products. I also think this commitment says something important, again, about the Illini approach to recruiting the state. Just as I mentioned in the first segment, getting the hometown kid to stay home, I think it sends a message. And Gavin isn't some under-the-radar prospect that nobody noticed. He's had Power 5 offers. Missouri wanted him. Kansas State wanted him. Iowa State wanted him badly enough to secure a commitment. This was contested, and Illinois won. Not because of geography, not because of convenience, because they convinced Gavin this was the best place for his future. And that's a meaningful distinction. So yeah, Gavin is a really nice pickup. He's versatile, he's athletic, physical, he's got a lot of developmental upside. But I keep coming back to the same thing. The commitment sometimes just feels bigger than one player because it happened during a weekend where Illinois is starting to finally generate some momentum. A weekend where recruits arrived excited and left even more excited. A weekend that's produced multiple commitments now, and now a weekend that produced a flip. Also, a weekend that continued to reinforce something we've been seeing more and more under Brett Bielema. Illinois isn't just getting recruits to visit, Illinois is getting recruits to change their minds. And to me, that's a sign of a very healthy football program. As I mentioned, we've got multiple recruits, commitments over this weekend. I'm going to go one by one in chronological order. I know we got another one on Monday, and I'll be discussing that one in a future episode. But you let me know, how worried are you? Is this class ultimately going to reach, the top 35, which is kind of my baseline expectations for Brett Bielema moving forward? We're about halfway through this class, and I think we're still about 60 or so. And so I don't think we're going to have enough time to get that high. So I'm not saying that I guess I'm not happy with the recruitment, but it's one of those where I'm not necessarily too upset with it either. I also know that it's not done yet. I do think we're going to get another quarterback commitment at some point to replace Camden Lapati, who, by the way, randomly is visiting Navy after being committed to Michigan. I mean, I don't even know how to follow that story anymore, but I just thought that was interesting. That was released on Monday as well. But yeah, this recruiting class is certainly not done. There's a couple quarterbacks that Illinois has their eye on, but I think, again, Gavin Erickson-Staton is a huge pickup. And again, it's just nice that we snatch up talent that other Power 4 teams want. It was only a decade ago we were battling the Central Michigans, the Western Michigans, the other MAC teams for talent. Now we're legit going after other Power 4 programs who have very good evaluations and beating them for it. And hopefully those 19 wins in 2 seasons can become 27 in 3 seasons and on forth, and we can continue this momentum moving forward. And welcome back. If you haven't already, please consider joining the Everydayers Club. You get all of these episodes absolutely ad-free, and you get the opportunity to join a Locked On community, which is a private Discord with myself, other members of the Illini community, and your favorite Locked On hosts, all in one spot. Please consider it's a way for you to support the program as well, which, by the way, again, make sure you hit the like button on this video, especially if you're enjoying the recruiting momentum on the football side and randomly on the basketball side, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. As I mentioned, you guys may not even realize this, but you may be catching my videos every day because I produce content every day and think you're subscribed and may not be. It genuinely is my goal to hit 5,000 subs before we kick off the football season. As I was recording this, Brad Underwood released comments on Lincoln Williams, and I figured I'd read it out loud. Lincoln is an outstanding in-state player who we have recruited for many years, Underwood said. He was a tremendous scorer at a great program, Kankakee High School, and he's a special athlete with the ability to play and guard all the perimeter positions. He has the potential to be an elite defender at the collegiate level as he continues to mature and develop. Lincoln is excited to represent his state by wearing the orange and blue, and we are thrilled to add him to this roster. I just realized while I'm talking about this, one thing I did want to mention, I forgot to in that first segment, is Lincoln made it clear he was a 4-star, and unfortunately he had some academic issues, and that he had to basically take his senior year to focus on that and correct all that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the opportunities to play at some of the major schools that were offering him. So I want to give you a shout out, Lincoln Williams. If you happen to be watching, or someone from Lincoln Williams' family ends up watching, that's not easy. Sometimes it is easy to get sidetracked or get a big head and think that basketball is the only thing that matters. To recognize that he was on a path that his dreams could be ruined, and to be able to hunker down, sit down, and focus on what's really important and show the improvement that was necessary, I hope that he has some sort of validation of all that hard work, getting that scholarship offer from not just the home state school, right? University of Illinois is not just a home state school. It's a program that just went to the Final Four. It's a program that's one of the best programs in the entire country. I do hope that he realizes that his hard work has paid off. And I wish a lot of you realize something like that as well. So congrats to you, Lincoln. I really do. mean it. Before I let you guys go today, I also realized that I forgot to say a couple messages. This isn't Illinois related, but over the weekend, Stacey King passed away. Now, as someone who grew up in the Chicagoland and got to witness the 90s Jordan Bulls era, Stacey King was a part of both the basketball on the court and a part of my life as a Bulls fan off the basketball court. He was kind enough, if you ever DM'd him on social medias and say, hey, I'm going to be at the game, at the travel, at an away game, he would let you come down, take a picture with them. My wife was fortunate enough, who lived in New York at the time. She DM'd him, say, hey, my fiance at the time's a really big fan. Can I come take a picture of myself and you? And he obliged. And that's just the type of personality he is. I work within a lot of folks in the Bulls community. Shout out to the Roundtable guys. Shout out to Hayes. And I see just the interactions between Stacey and even those guys. Every tribute I've read, every tribute I've watched about Stacey King has been very touching. And it's a shame that he had to go so early. But if you're a Bulls fan out there, and again, I know this is not Illini related, it's a tough day. And I just want to say that Stacey King, I know, is certainly a player that's going to be missed by a lot of people. He had some sayings that are going to be memorable forever. And sure, he was the the 6th pick overall for the Bulls team, and he didn't quite pan out in that regard, but he does have a couple championship rings. And I think he's become a legend when it comes to announcer. I think he's the best announcer we've ever had. And that says a lot because we've had some high quality the Chicago Bulls fans have been spoiled when it comes to the announcers table between Johnny Red Kerr and Neil Funk and many more that I'm just forgetting in the moment. But I did want to give a special shout out. I just want to mention it because once I heard the news on Sunday, I was pretty devastated. I know there's a lot of Illini fans who also happen to be Bulls fans. And so I just want to give a proper tribute to Stacey. All right, that's going to wrap everything up. I want to give a special shout out also to Ken and to Vicky, who emailed me immediately when Lincoln Williams had committed. I didn't get a chance to respond to this email, but I'm telling you, I did see your email. I just had to do a couple things in between, and I knew I was going to record this episode anyway. Vicky and Ken are two people who are always mentioning comments on every single video, so I appreciate you guys. And Ken, I know Ken is someone who emails me at talkalini@gmail all the time, and I sincerely do appreciate my conversations with him and anybody else. So again, if you have something you want to share, if you have a story you want to share, if you want me to talk about a certain segment, maybe an idea that I haven't come up with, hey, it's the summer. It's the time to try new things. You let me know. All right, that's going to wrap things up. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.